Boy, man, I've been hearing a lot of stuff about Philly.500, man. And before I bring them on here, where's that shopping list? I gotta get that. I gotta get that Philly.500 shopping list. Because as you're going to be able to tell here in a second, me and Philly.500 like to chop it up a little bit. Chop Robinson, that's a guy I like, by the way. Okay? So let's bring in my boy, Philly.500.
What's up, Big Sills? What's going on?
You over there, man?
I'm great.
Howie season.
It's Howie season, and it's time to tell the Dallas Godfather to start betting the Eagles this year, baby. We're back, and I'm feeling it. What's going on?
Okay. So let's take a look at Howie's shopping list.
All right. I love it.
Will Greer, quarterback. Journeyman. Devin White, linebacker. Fired in Tampa. Gardner Johnson, upgrade. Barkley, you and me kind of and kind of not agree. I think he underachieved in New York. We're going to find out this year if it was New York or if it really was the fact that he was on a bad team. Bryce Huff, one down guy. Devontae Parker, who? Matt Hennessy, fired in Atlanta, third rounder. Orenthal Burks, linebacker, or Oren Burks or something, Niners. All right. I mean, how come I look at this list and I see the greatest practice squad team in the history of the National Football League, and you're giving me Howie season?
Because
am I looking at this wrong?
Your glasses are obviously foggy. You take them glasses and clean them. It's a great job by Howie. This is why I'm going to say it, because it depends. We'd have to go position by position, but I look at it and I say, man, he went out there and he literally tried to make his team better with the talent and the players that were out there in the free agency market. And I can't.
These are mid-level moves.
Well, it depends. You're going to tell me I believe Saquon Barkley is as good talent-wise as Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, my God.
Oh, no. I swear to you, and this is not something I have said this for 3 years. I have said this. I would love to see Saquon Barkley go on a team with real talent. And then let's see. Now, if he doesn't produce or he gets hurt, I will come on here and say, Sills, you're right. But this guy has had nothing. I mean, nothing. Sills, my kids could block better than the Giants' offensive line.
I got that. But I want to show you something here. The last 2 years, you've averaged 1,200 yards rushing. And between Miles Sanders and DeAndre Swift.
Right.
And you've averaged over 300 in receiving.
Right.
So I'm going to put this out there. That means his floor to be an upgrade, he's got to be over 1,500 yards total offense and over 1,200 yards rushing for it to be an upgrade.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Because what's the one thing
what's fed then in the offense?
Well, I mean, you're not going to have enough balls to get around. Obviously, somewhere in the passing game, somebody's going to lose. Maybe AJ Brown, your buddy, is going to lose a few balls his way. But here's the thing. What's the one thing we've said about Miles? What's the one thing we've said about DeAndre Swift? Two guys that I like, by the way. We've always said the Eagles don't use them right. They underutilize them. They treat them like they can't use them too much or they're going to get hurt. Now, with Saquon Barkley, they feel that they have the first 3 down back since Shady McCoy. And if that's the case and they go out and they use him, then I have no issue with it at all. I've always believed Barkley's that talented. I don't believe he played on a good team. And I believe that, I mean, we're not just talking about not a good team. We're talking about he's had 1,000-yard receiver one time in his career, his rookie year. He has no receivers. They have no line. The guy's going to see a hole. He's going to go, I don't know what the hell that is. Look at all that space. So to me, I like it. But I mean, at the end of the day, we'll see. You're right. I think Barkley should have somewhere close to 200, 2,000 all-purpose yards. Maybe under, maybe over, but I think it should be around there somewhere.
So you think he's going to have a McCaffrey year, like he's going to have
Yeah.
68 catches?
Somewhere like 50s. I expect
Because I
Saquon
think he'll be
Barkley.
the third guy. You know, they don't really use wide receiver 3. He's
Right.
probably going to be that role, right?
Very well. I mean, based upon what they've done wide receiver wise, I tend to agree with you. But I don't look at Barkley as anything less than making the same impact McCaffrey made for the 49ers. That's why they did it. And I expect that in return. And I think he's good enough to get it. So, time will tell. But I look at Barkley. I've always wondered what Barkley would look like with a team with talent. So we'll see.
Are the starting linebackers on the current roster right now?
The starting linebackers,
Yes.
one of them. I'll say I'm hopeful about Devin White, although it is a risk. I fully admit it's a risk. I hope the change of scenery for him will be a big deal. But I still think you have to draft. I think you have to draft your linebackers, and I think they're going to have to draft linebacker early in this draft still.
How about this here? We kind of broached it the last time you're on. I want to kind of hit on it again here because I'm going to follow up with something that I've heard here. Boy, if you're Haason Reddick and the Eagles are telling you, hey, go find somebody else to play for, then call us back. I draft a guy at your position, pay him more. He's on the team. You move the roster bonus. Then you're publicly doing all this. And it doesn't that drive the value? If you're looking for draft choices, do the Eagles want him back? Are they driving the market down on purpose? So that, get this, if he comes back, he's making less than Huff. How does that make a guy he's got 27 sacks? Philly.500. He's got 27 sacks in 2 years. He's been one of the more productive pass rushers. The guy you signed is a gamble. He's only done it 1 year, and he's not even a starter.
Right.
And now you got the guy you want him to be. Would you be offended if you're Haason Reddick the way you're being treated here?
Yeah, perhaps I would. Hopefully, I'll be motivated to want to go show what I'm worth. The Haason Reddick is a weird situation for me, and I don't fully understand it. I feel like it's this one too many moves. It's like they went out and they got Huff. I think they needed a third pass rusher. So now you have a third pass rusher. And when you think of Huff as a third pass rusher, that's a pretty good third pass rusher. But once you take Haason Reddick off this roster and you look at what they have, it's not good enough. So to me, I don't see any way in which you would not bring Haason Reddick back. One, you're not going to get trade value for him, like you said, because of maybe how they're approaching it. But I don't see how you can say we're competing for a Super Bowl and then get rid of literally your best defensive playmaker. I mean, he is really maybe their only playmaker on defense that they have. I don't understand the Reddick thing, and I gotta hope that at the end of the day he'll be back at least for one more year. Look, restructure his final year of the deal, give him some more money, make him happy, bring him back. But to me, what are you going to get for him? A third-round pick? That's not enough. And then you need another pass rusher. So then you're almost handcuffing yourself in the first round to have to go get a pass rusher. So to me, the Haason Reddick thing, out of all what I've seen this offseason, is the one thing that kind of got me scratching my head because I don't get it.
Oh, don't forget, too, I forgot the greatness of Paris Hilton they hired at wide receiver, too, because he was good in 2022. Oh, wait, no, Paris Campbell. I get these. I get these names wrong sometimes. I have to look up the NFL reference sometimes for this great practice squad.
Better than
that you're giving A+ to.
Quez Dropkins. Better than
Quez
Dropkins. He's in Pittsburgh. He signed today with the Steelers.
Oh, wow. He's going to go play with Russell Wilson.
Yeah. I'll tell you, man, I think if you look at it, I think Barkley, impact player. CJ Garner is going to be an impact player. If you keep Haason Reddick, then the Bryce Huff signing is really good to me. And I like it. And I think that's an impactful player. So to me, I really think a lot of it has to do with what they do with Haason Reddick, because I don't understand it otherwise.
How about this? I mean, we got a guy on our network named Bill Calarulo, and I told him that I hope he got his audition tape for being a Philly cheerleader in by March 23rd. I pray you got yours in too, man, because boy,
I
you're
got my
all over
card in
these
my
moves
phone.
here, man. You really think they're upgraded? They're an
Yeah.
upgraded team.
Yeah, they're upgraded at running back. They're upgraded right now. As long as you keep Reddick, you've upgraded your pass rush. Devin White is better than any linebacker that they had last
What is
year,
that saying?
regardless. Huh?
What is that saying?
It's saying that their linebackers stunk last year. It's what it's saying. Listen, the thing with Devin White, and you know him well because he was at Tampa. He came out of the gate really, really good. And
Second team
then
All Pro in the Super Bowl year.
yeah, and then he wanted his contract extension and he didn't get it, and it
And
looked
then he
like
whined about it.
he whined and cried about it and handled it wrong. But my hope is that maybe the change of scenery is going to be what he needs to be motivated. And I like that he's on a 1-year deal. He's only getting like $7.5 million maximum. So if he goes out and he kills it, he's going to get his big contract. If he doesn't, then what do we really lose by it? But you at least upgraded it, and you got to get young linebackers in the draft. I see it as a low risk reward. But the guy that they brought back, CJ Garner-Johnson, is maybe one of the most important free agent signings. He never should have left. We needed him last year. We needed that swagger. We needed the way he carried himself, and that was sorely missed. And to me, at least Howie Roseman, at least he can say, you know what, I made a mistake. I made a mistake letting this guy go. I'm bringing him back.
It's got to be everything to do that. Maybe because I'm not looking at it with more positivity is because he's a Gator, and I don't know. I mean, him and the Gator GM. Both those guys.
I mean, look, it's all risk at the end of the year. I know I sound positive. I just look at it from what it could be if everything goes right. Now there's always the opposite side of that. It could go really wrong. That's the case. But I would rather it go wrong and have gone out and made moves than be the Dallas Cowboys.
How about this?
And do nothing.
And you want to hear? Hey, here's the Cowboys. Dak Prescott's contract is 21% against the salary cap this year. What a Death Star that thing is! And on top of that, you want to hear what Michael Irvin believes happening?
What's that?
Thinks that they're not doing anything. They're gonna roll into a season somewhere be 8-8 or somewhere being 500 or a little below 500, and then they're gonna draft Shedeur Sanders next year in the draft.
They're schemers.
They're going to move on from Dak because they're going to have him play it out, and they're going to use Shedeur Sanders as leverage against Dak Prescott when his upcoming negotiations because of Deion's kid, and there's a chance Deion may replace Mike McCarthy as head football coach in Dallas.
You know what? I strangely believe it. Because
wait, as far out as that is that Dallas-like?
Yeah, it definitely is. I think it is because Dallas is schemers. They scheme. You're friends with Mike Orver. You had him on before. If you ever have him on again, ask him. I believe that when Terrell Owens was an Eagle and then the whole thing went bad, I believe Irvin, Sanders, and Owens planned to get him kicked off the Eagles by talking about McNabb. And they did an interview, and then he would go to Dallas. I think the whole thing was planned because I think they're schemers. So I could totally see the Dallas Cowboys doing it. But I really believe that they did that. I would love to ask him that.
All right.
You guys, did you plan when that Terrell Owens interviewed and he was going to talk about McNabb? Was that planned to get him to Dallas? Because they knew if he talked about McNabb, they knew he was going to get thrown off. The team was over.
Okay, here's how you get to T.O. Ready? Talk
Yeah.
first ballot Hall of Fame. Talk Eagles, and most importantly, talk McNabb. He can't not comment on McNabb.
I
He
love the
actually
guy.
likes Andy Reid. But if
Yeah,
you
he does.
say anything where he said, "Will you do this?" Because I've gone up back, I've had back and forth with him, and I said this. I go, "Hey man, everyone says that you were moaning and crying in Philadelphia," and he turns around and says, "I was moaning and crying. You better take a look at 5. You want to see the biggest moaner and crier? You should have seen him the day before." Then he starts going in. This guy's over at the stall throwing up because this guy was so nervous for the Super Bowl. Andy Reid went in and gave him a towel, and everyone. I started laughing, and I'm going, "That motherfucker's ready for the Super Bowl? I don't believe it." He goes, "I went out with a broken leg," and they're tough. And
Yeah,
I'm going, "That's all you had to do was wind him up, man." He
I
wouldn't
love
shut
it.
up after that. And he
I
goes,
love it.
"This
All
guy's the
right.
biggest shit talker I've ever seen." He goes, "You know who my quarterbacks were, Dan? Tim Rattay and Jeff Garcia. Those were my quarterbacks." Okay. Though that's the guys I had, and I had 5, the worst leader. I'm going, okay, we got enough sound
Yeah.
bites here to cover it for a year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's great. I can't
I
help
want
but
to I
like
want
the
to
guy.
play I want to play something with you here a little bit. Eagles have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 picks. And just quickly, 22. It's the Birds pick. I say edge. What do you think they do in round 1?
See, I think that Reddick is a giant is the giant issue. If
See,
Reddick's
remember
going
you got to replace BG too.
right, I'm going to be honest. I would like to keep Reddick, and I'd like to go corner. I'd like to draft a cornerback, somebody who I believe can play right away.
I'm going to put that down. You say cornerback.
Yeah, I know
Okay.
it's a little bit out of the box what the Eagles do, but I think with those 2 corners you got that are older, I think you could get somebody and start right away.
And listen, do you know why I don't think you're off base?
Hmm.
OT book, it says Xander. Listen, you know why you're not?
Why?
Because Howie's got to look at replacing Lane. And he's
Right?
2 years away. And on top of that, you need some more depth there. And I think there's going to be 5 quarterbacks are going to be drafted. There's going to be some really good players down there, corners, OTs, people like that. So
Right.
there's going to be some good ball players. I say this with the second round pick at number 50. That's the Saints pick they got. Do you think I'm off when I say linebacker?
No, no. I mean, it's a definite need, and it'd be a great time to go linebacker.
It's a little
Uh,
bit in the top end of the second, this
yeah.
50th pick.
See, I think they should trade up in that second. I think they got 2 twos, right? So I think they should trade up with one of them and then trade back with the other. I'm gonna go wide receiver with the
Huh.
second. Yeah, because the guys that they brought in
Replacing AJ eventually next year?
eventually, maybe somebody that could like the Adonis Mitchell kid could play inside for a couple years, and then you bounce them outside in time. But I think there are some good wide receivers that are going to be
Yep.
there early. So I think it's out of the box, but I think you could also have somebody. You know, if you went corner and you went receiver, I think you could potentially have 2 guys that are playing right away, and that's what I like about them.
That's interesting what you say. So you're saying take the 22 and maybe the 53rd and move up?
I'm saying take the 50th and maybe use one of your 5th round pick and go up early second, and then take a wide receiver. Then take your was it the 53rd, and then
53rd pick is your second one.
and move back and get some extra picks, like a
And
third.
so, like, get into the third. You don't have a
Right,
third, so go into the third round.
right. Yeah,
This draft is wide receivers and offensive tackle and offensive
yeah,
line deep.
yeah. And I got to tell you 2 things. One, when it comes to the offensive line, I don't worry because
Yeah.
I trust Stoutland so much. And then I look at the corners like Arnold and this Quinyon Mitchell. Like I think these guys are players, and I think they literally could come in and take Bradbury's spot right away. And I like the idea of that, because I do like Ringo, and maybe he could start on the outside eventually. C.J. Gardner-Johnson's young, and if you plug yourself a corner that can start right away, a young kid. See, the way I see it is with Barkley coming to the Eagles, and if this offense is as good as I think, this should give the Eagles an opportunity to draft some young defensive players and plug them in and let them play. Let them play and go through their struggles and then eventually start playing well and meshing together long term. I think you need to take advantage of having such a high-powered offense and do that with defense. Get these young guys playing.
So since you mentioned that with the 53rd, how about this one here with the 4th pick, 120 Steelers? They got it from. I say safety. They get another safety back there because, to me, listen, Reed Blankenship for me is hit or miss. I'm like this with him. I don't know. Some days I'm like this. Okay. Then other days I'm like, no. He's just like, I'm good with him being on the team. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I don't want him as my starter. And I think he would help the special teams. And I'm not saying not give him reps because he does make plays, but he also makes bonehead plays. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, I don't think he's a starter. Am I off?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I kind of agree with you, with him. So I safety would be something I could see them doing. Now, if it was me and it was like and I went corner receiver, I would go probably linebacker here. That's probably where I would go linebacker. But yeah, safety would be perfect.
How much of an impact do you think Jason Kelsey not being on the field is going to have on Hurts?
It's got to have an impact, right? I mean, he called out a lot of the blitzes and set up a lot of protections and all that. So it's going to affect him. I don't see how it can't. He's that good. But it's something he's just gonna have to work through. I do think Jurgens can be a good center, but to expect him to be Kelsey or expect to make up for everything Kelsey gives you is not going to happen right away.
Are you more concerned about the linebackers or the corner play this year?
I'm more concerned about the linebackers. The corners are they are who they are. I don't think what you see from Bradbury and Slay is what you're going to get. Uh, I do worry about the linebackers. I mean, we don't have a lot of linebackers right now. I think White's by far the best one we have. Dean hasn't showed me he could stay healthy, and I really don't know what to make of this Burks kid or anybody like that. So I think linebackers definitely by far what I worry
Check
about
this.
the most.
Couple last questions here for you, but this is what Herm Edwards said on the show the other day. He goes, because they're going to a 34. Now, think about that. If you look at the depth chart, Sweat's not a starter. They got Milton Williams out there
Yeah, that's interesting.
on the depth chart. Now, that may have changed since they restructured. Okay, but they have Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, and Jalen Carter. They
Your
really
end.
don't have 4 linebackers. And I said to Herm, he goes like this. Well, let me tell you about having a 34. You don't have to be exceptional at the linebacker position. You have to be functional. He said where you have to be great is in your back end with your secondary and your corners and you're free and strong. He goes, because 74% of the time you're a nickel. You've got to be good back there. And that's why the control and contain of Vic Fangio, he goes, Vic can move these guys around. So I think they're looking at that linebacker position with this one. Philly, I think they want to just be good there, but they need to be exceptional in the secondary. And that's why, to me, the secondary is really, to me, I think it's really a priority on what they're going to do this offseason here. I still think there's a move somewhere. I don't know if it's a trade or it's in the draft.
If that's the case, you hope they go out and maybe bring in Justin Simmons for like a year or two. I think he would be a good
I'm warming
addition.
up for that.
But the other kid, the kid from I forget his name off. It's just slipping my mind. But the kid from the Colts, the safety who's been visiting teams, he's still out there. His name, I think it's Blackman. Yeah, he's out there, and he's only 24 years old. Now, if you got him and he's 24 years old, Think about how young, and then you draft a corner in the first round. Think about how young your secondary is and talented for like going into this year. You got a young and talented secondary, especially when Slay and Bradbury go on their way after this year. But yeah, Julian Blackmon is who it is. I mean, he's still out there, and he went and visited Buffalo. He visited the 49ers. And you know, if
I'd
that's
rather have
that
him
important,
than Simmons.
yeah, me too, because he's younger. I'm all about the younger, but if he's 24, what is CJ Gardner-Johnson's like 26.
Yep.
So you got those two guys. Then let's say you draft a Quinyon Mitchell, like, you know, that's the guy. Like, but let's say you draft him as a corner in the first round. Now all of a sudden you have two young safeties, a young corner, and then when Slay goes, hopefully Ringo could slide there on the outside. Now that you're set, you got a whole young secondary. See, they could rebuild that whole secondary and be pretty talented with one more move for a safety, whether it's in the draft or it's, you know, free agency.
I'm going to leave you with this, and it's not really a question. It's more just to show you how ahead Kansas City is than the entire league. Think about what they did today or yesterday. They moved off of Snead. They only got a 3 and a 5 for him. He's an all-pro. They franchise tagged him. They didn't want to pay him, and they moved off him. And they're going to go into the draft, and they've got $30 million in cap space. And you're sitting there going, where most teams, like the laundry list of players that Howie's done, or go around the league and look at all the teams that teams have made massive moves. And you look at the Chiefs, they re-signed Chris Jones. They did what? They tagged Snead. They brought in Hollywood Brown, and that's it. I mean, it just shows you think about what they've lost too. Honey Badger, Tyreek Hill, Snead. I mean, dude, they're losing players and still winning Super Bowls. It's insane.
I know, but it's because of one reason: Patrick Mahomes.
Two.
I mean, when
Reed
you have
and
Patrick
Reed
Mahomes,
and Mahomes.
I mean, Mahomes to me. I mean, listen, Andy Reid's a great coach, but Andy Reid went to a bunch of championship games with us, could never get over the hump. Well, he gets Patrick Mahomes, he starts winning Super Bowls, and Patrick Mahomes gave them the luxury to rebuild that defense. See, that's what I'm hoping Saquon,
just like Brady,
what the Eagles did. Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping Saquon and that Eagles offense could do is give us time to rebuild that defense. But I mean, having Patrick Mahomes makes a big difference, in my opinion.
Man, financially, and he's beating teams in the Super Bowl that they're not as talented.
I know.
I mean, that shows you again. The Eagles and the Niners are spending money like they're tellers at a bank, and you're sitting here going like, these guys are losing players and winning. I think it's absolutely insane how much of a difference that guy. The gap, Philly, the gap between 1 and 2 in the NFL and quarterbacks, is there's a larger gap from 2 to 3.
Yeah,
with all the comparisons of quarterbacks than there are from 1 to 2. I think that gap is a mile. It's a Grand Canyon gap between 1 and 2.
I agree. He's something, man. He really is, and there's nobody close, in my opinion, to him at all.
Tell people how they can find you.
Just type in Philly.500. I'll be there, screaming and yelling my Eagles on, baby,
and cheering away.
Where you know it.
Hey,
Jordan
cheering
Davis
away all their moves, man. I mean, the best practice
here.
roster in the entire league.
That's
there you go,
baby.
Man. I mean, you and Big Bill. Holy cow, man. You gotta get that video in.
Could be worse. We could be Dallas sitting there with our $1.5 million. Nothing to do.
Shedeur Sanders, book it.
It's an interesting take. It'll be interesting to see if they do that.
Philly, I love you, man. Thank you so much for coming aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Philly.500. Love having him on. Make sure you check out his fabulous show. Hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.